And the key is this: it is informational. I do not work with biochemical reactions. I work with information. And the way I deliver that information is by way of photographs of people and animals. So this is nothing like Newtonian physics. It's certainly not Western medicine. It's a new branch of science. It's an informational branch of science, and it allows us to break down the atomic and molecular bonds of viruses and harmful chemicals and say fungi.
That's fascinating. And
parasites.
it's my understanding then too that one of the reasons for the coming together of light workers, yourself,
Yeah.
and Sterling Hill, was that she can provide some of the chemical structures or molecular structures of certain things which have been a problem in society today by some of the things that are going on, which we must be careful about what we say, and hopefully people will pick up on what we're talking about. But Sterling, you're able to provide that, and didn't you have, like you mentioned, you had the most complete list around, and you're sharing that with Tom. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And my list is 33,000 lines and growing right now on excipients, that adjuvants, and other environmental toxins. And I'm getting into mold, fungi, also mycotoxin now too, which seems to be a huge problem right now.
I'm Paul speaking for Free Range with Gail of Gaia. Today's program, Gail welcomes Sterling Hill and Tom Paladino, and they're going to be talking about how they can work together to reverse damage and possibly even damage done by the Kovac. And now here's Gail.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range. And today I have two important guests who are here to help our audience with various information and healing technologies. And we will be covering things like pathogens, allergens, and toxins, how they impact our DNA, and what particular genes are affected, and what we can do to possibly correct that situation. So let's start with ladies first. I guess we'll go to you, Sterling Hill. You're well known by many people. And why don't you say a little bit about your background and what you know about genetics? That's very important at this time.
Okay. Well, I'm a genetics applications engineer. I have taken many excipients and adjuvants that are put into people and built a database, the first database of its kind in the world. And I show where excipients, adjuvants, and other environmental toxins like glyphosate impact DNA and can epigenetically express, turn things on and off, and do some damage to DNA. And I teach people how to manipulate this with nutrition. I do believe in energy work, especially scalar energy. Very important. I've also gone to DC and done a congressional briefing on the dangers of glyphosate. I've also, worked with other communities and lectured around the world. I've been commended by the Louisiana Senate for my steadfast commitment in defending the medical health freedom rights of children and adults, not only in Louisiana, but around the world. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
And I'd like to mention you didn't talk too much about autism, because I know you've been very actively involved, and that's what you're.
Yeah, I didn't think that we probably should because of, restrictions, but yeah, I'm very active in that community. And I do work with CHD, which you can put the words to that out later. I don't like saying the whole.
Okay, I wasn't aware that was an issue too. The censorship has gotten so far out of hand that intelligent people that have very important information to share can't share it. So go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
do some, sorry about that. I did do work under Sheila Ely and who's right under RFK Jr. So yeah, I kind of can't really talk much about that on YouTube anymore. So
Well, that's just a shame. And you, Tom Paladino, you have scalar energy, and your work is phenomenal nowadays because it can help people with these toxins, allergens, and pathogens that are impacting us from many different areas. So tell us what you're doing, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Gail. I appreciate your time. I am working with what is known as scalar energy. Some people call that Tesla energy or 0 point energy. It's not electricity. And over the past 25, 30 years, I've developed and perfected scalar energy instruments that allow me to address, say, allergens, viruses, bacteria, harmful substances. And with these scalar energy instruments, I'm able to break down the molecular code, the molecular bonds that hold together allergens, again, viruses, bacteria, various types of chemicals and substances. And with this emerging science, I call it an emerging science, it is, I work with people remotely. In other words, there is no in-person session. I work with people by way of their quantum field. I'm holding up my photograph. I actually take email photographs from people around the world, and I work exclusively by way of a photograph. So this is the new science that we're developing, in which we can access the quantum dimension. We can access the scalar energy dimension. We do all of that by way of photographs. So again, it's a new and emerging science that I'm going to speak about in the next hour. It offers great promise. One of the great things about it, it's painless, it's simple, it's easy, and you're only working in an information system by way of a person's photograph. It's quite profound. This has nothing to do with Newtonian physics. It's not Newtonian physics.
That's fascinating because I've heard that physics is incorrect in many ways from other people who are physics experts, and I'm not one of them. But anyway, I just find that very interesting because so much of what we've been taught has not exactly been true.
Right.
And one of the things that I find fascinating about your line of work, Tom, is that you're able to disassemble things that are pathogenic or toxic or allergenic to the human body. And so that is absolutely critical. And then being able to do it from a distance is fascinating as well.
Right.
Now, I had somebody ask me not long ago about your work. The way I understand it, you created the instruments that you have yourself. You didn't purchase them from anyone else. And they're not available for sale to anyone else either.
That's correct. These are custom built instruments I learned from a man by the name of Gail Hieronymus, who was a scalar energy expert. He's deceased. And more or less this tradition was passed on to me. And there are very few people who are taking up this type of research today. Very few. Anyway, they are custom built instruments. These instruments control a spectrum, a dimension known as scalar energy. It's not electromagnetic energy. And what's peculiar about this energy is it's everywhere, and you can access this dimension anywhere in the world or anywhere in the universe. And the key is this: it is informational. I do not work with biochemical reactions. I work with information. And the way I deliver that information is by way of photographs of people and animals. So this is nothing like Newtonian physics. It's certainly not Western medicine. It's a new branch of science. It's an informational branch of science. And it allows us to break down the atomic and molecular bonds of viruses and harmful chemicals and say fungi.
That's fascinating. And
parasites.
It's my understanding then too that one of the reasons for the coming together of light workers, yourself, and Sterling Hill, was that she can provide some of the chemical structures or molecular structures of certain things which have been a problem in society today by some of the things that are going on, which must be careful about what we say, and hopefully people will pick up on what we're talking about. But Sterling, you're able to provide that. And didn't you have, like you mentioned, you had the most complete list around, and you're sharing that with Tom. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And my list is 33,000 lines and growing right now on excipients, adjuvants, and other environmental toxins. And I'm getting into mold, fungi, also mycotoxin now too, which seems to be a huge problem right now.
And
Where
that's
is
very
all
much
this,
needed.
Nick?
I need that database. So Sterling, thank you. In other words, my instruments do what I tell them to do. And they cannot perform a function unless you instruct them. So what Sterling is going to offer me is a database of information. Again, I'm working with an information system. So when I have magnified photographs of, say, allergens, viruses, bacteria, different types of harmful chemicals, then I could use those magnified photographs in conjunction with my instrument. So frankly, my instrument does what I tell it to do. And the database that Sterling can provide me with is something that I will be highly thankful, and I would commend her for doing so.
Well, that's the beauty of people coming together to help change the planet for the better. And that's what this is all about. And that's what this show is about. And that's what you two working together is about. And all of us bringing forward whatever we can in whatever way we can to move this along in a positive, life enhancing direction rather than some of the negativity that we hear on a day-to-day basis. So I had one other question for you, Tom, that came up on the last show. And I would like to have you address this. Some people said that, everything should be done, any type of healing work should be done for free. Now, that is easy for someone to say when they haven't invested all their time, energy, and money into the products that you yourself have done.
I'll address that. And that's a very good point. That's my end goal. My end goal is to treat everybody in the world for free by way of their photograph. Now, in order to do that, I still have to have a staff. We still have to have a research company, and there's expenses. So those of you who really are concerned about this, help me. Perhaps have a financial donation to our services. Help us by volunteering. So in other words, everything takes resources. And the people that I work with demand a payment because they have mortgages. They have children to feed, so to speak. So those of you who are really concerned about this, and if you're really genuinely interested in helping, by all means, help us. But sadly, money is part of the equation because I have expenses and I have to pay salaries.
Exactly, Tom. And I can totally relate to that. And I know Sterling can as well. We all, in order to be able to do some of the things that we do, it takes resources, it takes finances, it takes people that are willing to volunteer. I mean, right now, that's how I am able to even get this out, is through some volunteer help. And Sterling, why don't you go ahead and address that a little bit as well?
Yeah, of course, 90% of what I do is free. Then there's 10% of what I do in a work week where I bring in some money. And then I also have a store to help bring me in some money. And then I sell genetic apps, genetic reports, but I never turn anybody away either. If somebody was to call me and say, hey, I don't have the money for your stuff, and my child is very ill and has been injured and damaged, I'm going to give it to them for free. But again, you saw my struggle just a couple months ago. Since all the censorship, my sales went down by 66%.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I laid off 13 employees, 11 which were permanently disabled, working from home, that I can't hire back yet right now. And things are just picking up slowly but surely because of by word of mouth. People get to me now Because when you go look up genetic report now on Google, I'm maybe on page 50. I used to be on page 1 or 2 before the censorship started, because of you know, I know what's going on in the world, and I'm also an activist. I go not only to Washington D.C., but I also go to state capitals, and when they call me in to speak as an expert, and
These
I'm
things
not,
don't take
I'm not
money.
well liked.
Yeah.
And I'm not well liked because of it, because of an agenda that's going on. And right now I had to totally downsize everything and almost lost everything, and had to do a fundraiser just to get, not lose everything I had, because that's how much I was attacked. So
It seems like that happens to anybody that's putting truth out. They seem to go after you in one way or another. They either shadow ban you, or they target you with
Yeah.
negative information, or people can't find you when they're ordinarily looking under sources to find the kinds of things that you do. I'm
Of course.
hoping that this comes to an end here and not too long.
So, because I mean, I've been put in Facebook jail for sharing peer review research.
I know. I did too,
Yeah.
from a doctor about something very similar, and 30 days for that. And then I no more than got out for 24 hours and was back in for 30 days again. I have a friend who has tabulated over a year worth in Facebook jail because he continues to post the truth. And that's all it takes. If you post the truth, or you post something about something that isn't part of the official narrative, you're going down. I hope to see this change. It doesn't sound like America to me. Have you had any experiences like that? Your work is suppressed too, isn't it, Tom?
My work has always been suppressed. It's a shame because the people are suffering, and I
Yes.
believe this new technology can help so many people. So hopefully the people will realize that there are certain factions, there is a cabal, and that cabal hates us. People have to come to this realization that there are nefarious forces out there. So I ask for people's prayers, and I'm sure Sterling asked for your prayers also.
Yeah.
We will
We all do.
overcome, but there, you have to ask yourself, why would evil people do this? Because they want to hold on to their money and power. That's why.
Yeah. And it
Yes.
seems like they're even scrunching down even more than what they already had. They want they've gotten even more greedy and more control oriented and in nefarious ways.
Yeah, it's 2 of the cabal members, Bloomberg and Bezos, have come after me and their papers and news media quite a few times. And they've been doing that for me. They've been after me for about 8 years. So it happens.
Well, it's a shame, but at least there are people that keep trying to put the information out there regardless. We are more careful of what we say, and we hope that the audiences are able to follow us regardless. And that's all we can do is never quit, never give up, and just keep going in that direction. Tom, why don't you share with us some of the successful stories that you've had with some people that you've worked with?
Sure. Okay. Again, I want to make this very clear. What I'm doing is groundbreaking. It's never been done before. It's unprecedented because these instruments they're avant-garde, if you will. They're custom-built instruments, and hence I have unique experiences that nobody else in the world has ever been able to experience. So the long and short of it is I am a scalar energy researcher. I'm working with Tesla energy, or 0-point energy. And I've discovered a technique with these instruments where I can release or negate the molecular bonds of a virus or a bacterium. And I can do that quite readily with these instruments because these instruments control molecular forms. And I can't emphasize that enough, that I have mastery over molecular form. But I never work with people or animals in person, so to speak. I work in the quantum field, and I can't stress it enough. People will email me photographs. I actually take an email photograph and I place it inside my scalar energy instrument. And then my instrument works like a satellite in the quantum realm, or a satellite in this 0 point energy matrix. And I can send information around the world by way of a photograph of a person or an animal. And the upshot is this, that people who come to me with some type of infection or some type of a chemical exposure, after I work with their photograph, they feel better. Now, you cannot explain that process by way of Newtonian physics. It's not Newtonian physics. So I have theories. I have my way of explaining it. I have tapped into the matrix, or I've tapped into what is known as quantum entanglement, where everything is information. The universe shares that information. And if I can tap into somebody's information field, then I could work with anybody in the world by way of their information field. But I have to underscore, what I am doing is not a biochemical process. And this is certainly not electricity. So it's a new branch of science. Nikola Tesla understood the virtue of this new and emerging science. He called it radiant energy. I call it scalar energy. And the long and short of it is, I have been able to work with people and animals by way of their emailed photograph. And the upshot is many people feel better as a result of my work in the quantum field, in the informational field. So it's something that you would have to cogitate on. It's non-physical. It's a new branch of physics, if you will. And I believe that I'm at the vanguard of this movement, that I'm one of the pioneers of this type of scalar energy research, or what some people call quantum healing.
That's fascinating. We're hearing quantum everything here lately. So it is a new and emerging field. And doesn't DNA operate quantumly as well, Sterling?
Yes, it sure does. So for instance, I can send a certain thing that's being put in something right now that affects a gene called furin. And when this toxin is put in to your body, it affects this furin gene. And this furin gene, when it's properly regulating, it regulates a protein called factor VIII protein. And this factor VIII protein, if it's running too low in supply, you can bleed to death. If it's running too high in supply, you can clot to death. So let's say somebody gets this particular toxin put in them from the recent things that are going on, if you catch my drift, and they have poor T cell, B cell function. Instead of their furin, it'll come in and that toxin will affect that furin gene, and it will rock bottom. And because they have poor T cell and or B cell function, their furin gene will not start properly functioning like it should. And they'll stay low, and they will not make enough of this factor VIII protein, and they can bleed to death. Now, let's say that this person has autoimmune disease, a hyperreactive immune system, and they're either a little high T cell, too high T cell function, and or too high B cell function, and you come in with the same toxin, they're going to rock bottom. And instead of leveling out in the middle to make just the right amount of factor VIII protein, they're going to go sky high and make too much factor VIII protein and clot to death. So what Tom can do is he can take this particular toxin and focus on it and send it through scalar technology with this person's photo, and disable and dismantle that and get that gene working properly. I mean, your genetics, it's beautiful. Your DNA, it's a double helix. It's a beautiful thing. It's magnetics. It's your song. It's what makes you you. Everybody has their own song.
Yes, that's so true. And that's expressed in the DNA. And in order for the DNA to work properly and not to be damaged, it doesn't do well with these different toxins that we know people are being exposed to in whatever way they choose to. So you, Tom, can take this and put this toxin whatever it happens to be. And we're reluctant to say exactly because of censorship. But anyway, you're able to take this and put it in your instruments and then program your instrument to disassemble it within the person through their photograph. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And again, this process is entirely non-physical. So what do I mean? It's an information system. And I'm working through this information system, scalar energy or scalar information. This is not a biochemical process. I never work with anybody in person or any animal at a physical capacity. I work in the quantum field. I work in this informational field. And this is what's so exciting about my work. Okay, it transcends time and space. I work with people around the world by way of their photograph. So it's not the person I'm working with, it's their information field. And that once you access that information field, then you're really at the wheelwork of nature. Then you're able to command, if you will, molecular form at that informational level. So I'm, if you will, working at with an animating force, scalar energy, and I'm working at a fundamental capacity. And that fundamental capacity allows me to break down the molecular bonds of, again, of an allergen, a virus, a fungus, etc. So promising, so promising. This is a new technology. It's a new way of looking at physics. And someday it will be embraced as a valid science.
Oh, I'm sure it's extremely valid, but it's getting out there and getting people to comprehend the very idea of it, because it's operating in a quantum unseen field. Yes. But then what I was thinking of was when you were saying what you were saying, and Sterling with her background with gene engineering applications, if you had the information from her about a particular individual and you had the picture as well and had that additional information, it would seem to me to be a recipe for some real serious healing.
Yes, and that's what I'm advocating, not only with our friend Sterling, but with people around the world. Help both of us. We need help. And you elucidated upon the fact previously that people said that we should be doing this for free. Well, I would advocate that, and if people would help us, then we could move to that paradigm. But right now, there's just too few of us out there. We need more Sterlings, is what I'm getting at. Anyway, long and short of it is, yes, Sterling has been a great help to me because she's provided me the information. Now I have the instruments that can impart that information. So this is a group effort. This is a grassroots effort. Those of you who are listening to this podcast, please join us. We need your help. We solicit your help by all means.
Excuse me. Yes, we all can use help. The things that we do in order, we can use volunteers. I mean, if people can't afford to, do anything from sending some type of donation or contribution of some sort, there's always, there's other ways of volunteering your time, because it certainly is taking very much of your time, Tom, and very much of your time, Sterling, and very much of my time. I mean, we're all spending our time. We're not on salary at this point in time, but we care about humanity, and we care about the world, and we care about our country as well, and want to get things to be where people are free, where people are healthy, where people can enjoy their life. That's where I'm coming from anyway. And
bravo. Yes.
Excuse me. Anyway, Sterling, do you have anything to add that we haven't discussed? Or
well, I mean, I'm very concerned about the new stuff that's out there. And you guys
oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. I'm sorry. Somebody knocked at the door. Just hang on. Go on, Sterling. Keep talking, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, now I got to clear my throat. Okay. Well, just with this new technology that's out there that is being forced upon people, there's another concern we have about another toxin, and it affects 3 particular genes. One's called KIT, one's called STAT3, and one's called JAK, JAK2. And all 3 of these genes, when they're epigenetically expressing, they've been turned on for some reason, they cause mast cell in people. Mast cell is a little bit different from just a regular allergic reaction. Those are your people that go into acute anaphylactic shock and sometimes don't make it and die. And I have actually issues with these 3 particular genes. I have mast cell, and there's a particular toxin that's being put out there right now that they're trying to force upon people that are the ones that are going into anaphylactic shock right now with the particular thing that's out there right now. And so we could, look at this particular toxin and have somebody like Tom go in and say, hey, we can help these people now. We can, we can fix things. We can do it on a quantum level. And that is just a beautiful thing. It's just so amazing just watching your work, Tom. I've been doing a lot of research on you lately in the past couple of months since Gail introduced me to you and showed me your work. And it's utterly amazing what you're doing. It's going to be how people heal, and they do not want this out. It's being suppressed.
Well, we got a grassroots movement going on right now, and that's where we will get this information out regardless. And it's a good thing. And you can't stop what's good.
No, you can't.
Technology is a gift from God. That's the way I look at it. And it can be used either appropriately or inappropriately. So I choose to use this technology to help people and to improve, human and animal health. And, thank you, Sterling, for your kind words. I need help though. And I'm no better than the people around me. So this is a team effort. Okay. And those of you who are listening once again to this interview, please join us. If you, in any way you can participate, whether in prayer, by referring people to this process, by helping Sterling out in some capacity, by helping me out in some capacity, help us. I'll speak for myself. I don't have any outside help. There's no trust fund. There's no foundation that's helped me. Certainly not the government. Certainly not the government. Why? Because my work, this new and emerging technology, is a threat to the status quo. I have technology that is a threat to what I would consider the corporations of the world, or the monopolies of the world, if you will. So I need your help, people. Those of you who are sincere, approach me. My website is scalarlight.com. Visit the website. If it makes sense to you, write to me. I'll write back to you. I need help. And I'm sure I could speak for Sterling in the same vein. We need help in order to sustain this grassroots movement and to further it and to make this, if you will, a global phenomenon.
I'm going to have to add, Tom, I need help too.
Okay.
Because, this doesn't happen by itself. And it takes work and it takes volunteers, and I don't have salaries to pay people either. And there's a lot more to it than people realize. So anyway, what it boils down to is we all need to work together. Like Tom says, it's a team effort. We support each other. We network with each other. We refer people in whatever capacity each one needs, and then we work together and we can accomplish great things.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't know that. Do we need to cover anything else at this point?
I think we covered what we needed to cover, and hopefully this will galvanize your support, and reach out to Sterling, reach out to Gail, reach out to me, please. Again, it's all grassroots. You get out of life what you put into it, and many of you realize that. So help us. Nothing happens by chance. Help us. Be proactive. Contact us.
Thank you, Tom. And I couldn't agree more. And I have had a few people who have helped me with volunteer help, and it makes all the difference in the world. And I'm sure Tom feels the same way, and so does Sterling. So we appreciate your help. We appreciate anything that you can do, no matter what it is, from, you know, a contribution to a volunteer help to a referral. It all matters. Because
Can I add something, Gail?
please do.
Yeah, we just did a fundraiser for Gail because it's gotten very hard on her lately. And if you guys could just scroll down on her YouTube channel and find that. And it was just done last week and really important. She's struggling really bad right now with censorship and stuff. So we had to kind of get together and help her out. And please remember that, because I felt like I had to be on that show because a lot of people helped me out and I was paying it forward with her, and to try to get her help now. I mean, it's gotten that bad with the censorship, and many of us, they're going to try any way to keep our knowledge of, you know, healing technologies, and especially technologies that could just bankrupt their system, you know.
That's what we want to do.
I know, but you can't talk.
We can't say that though.
Be
Yeah.
careful.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love you, Gail. Thank you, Tom, for giving me this opportunity to help you, because I think this is a beautiful thing. I had about 11 years ago, I was on hospice, and I got on my hands and knees and prayed to God in the pouring rain, you know, give me answers and I'll help as many people as I can. And that's what I do today. Actually, Gail has actually interviewed my hospice nurse, but on another show on a different subject. But anyway, I'm alive. I'm here for a reason. I asked God to give me answers and promise I'd help as many people as I can. And I'm sticking to that promise right now. And I'm helping as many people as I can. And I have no fear. I walk with Christ and I have no fear. And I keep on doing what I'm doing. I don't care how bad they talk about me in these so-called MSM papers and whatever on the news, whatever. I don't care. I have no fear. I walk with Jesus. When it's my time to go, it's my time to go. You know, and nobody can interfere with that.
Thank you, Sterling. That's beautiful. I know Tom does the same
Yeah.
thing. We're all on the same page here. And because I know you do a great deal of humanitarian work as well, Tom, free. And we all do what we can. And we just keep putting it out there. So thank you, everyone, for listening. If anyone else has anything they want to add, please feel free to do so. But thank you, and thank you for listening. And
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail.
thank you.
This Free Range Productions program is presented for information purposes only. The statements made herein have not been evaluated by any agency and should not be considered professional, legal, or medical advice. Viewers are directed to consult their own professional sources before acting on any information presented here.